Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Career Tip Tuesday. I am your host, Sherry Sims, founder of Black Career Women's Network. We are a professional development agency that supports the professional development of Black women. I'm so glad you could be here for Career Tip Tuesday. You all know the drill. When you come in, please let us know where you are tuning in from so we can know. I'm turning my lights on a little bit so we can get a little brightness here, you all. Turn it down a little bit. There we go. All right. How is it? All right, so today's topic, we're going to jump right into it, is being liked is not a career strategy. And I know that people talk about likability at work and how it plays a part in your trajectory of your career, which is true. But I want to give you another way to think about being liked and how it's not really a career strategy and how you really need to look at likability and what that means. And so if you see me looking down, it's because I got a little couple of notes. I want to make sure that I cover some things here. And let's talk about this really quickly in terms of why being liked is not a career strategy. Because for many Black women, sometimes we frame approval as safety and when it comes to our jobs. And sometimes some of us, not all of us, some of us are taught to be agreeable. Some of us are taught to be flexible. Some of us are taught to be grateful for the opportunities that have come our way. But what happens is that even though we may have that attitude that way, hi, Nidrea from Philly. What happens is that it can cost us. And how it costs us is that it can cost us in a way where it stalls our growth. It may mute our authority. And it also could possibly make our leadership abilities or what we do invisible. And so we don't want that. What I do want from us today is that as you're watching, I want you to please ask questions, engage. Let's talk about this dialogue around why career likability is definitely not a strategy, and we should not look at it that way. Hi, Marie. Hi, Janetta from Chicago and from Northern VA. So I think it's important for us to think about that perspective. And for those of you who just showed up, being liked is not a career strategy is what we're talking about today. That is going to be our conversation for today's Career Tip Tuesday. And so I want to jump right into the first one. And so that way we can just kind of get it right ahead of this conversation, talk about it, chop it up, the whole thing with it. And the first one is approval culture rewards comfort, not advancement. So when you talk about being liked at work, it often means that you're making other people comfortable when you're likable, right? From our perspective, okay? And think about that for a moment. Think about times where you have maybe muted what you said, maybe changed the conversation because you didn't want to make someone else uncomfortable. So comfort rarely leads to promotion and influence or decision-making power, because careers that move, they have impact, they have visibility. And when the behavior is not palatable, I can't even get that out, right? And I'm saying it like I know how to pronounce it. Sometimes what happens is that we try to either dumb down what we're doing because we want to make people feel comfortable, when we need to be thinking about making sure that we are conveying clear, concise communication, and that what we are saying and what we're doing, people understand it, and it is part of the objectives of the outcomes we're trying to achieve. So sometimes comfort is not what's needed. Comfort, speaking up and saying what you need to, and being influential and having decision-making power is important. And so don't think about approval rewards comfort. I'm going to put that back up there too, because I think it goes away pretty quickly. Approval culture rewards comfort, not advancement. If you think about individuals who have been promoted and you're thinking, why were they? A lot of times we do promote people, or leaders do promote individuals who make them feel comfortable. They may not necessarily rock the boat. They may go along with the status quo of how things are done. And that's the truth, right? So when you think about how they do that, again, it does reward comfort and not advancement when it comes to being approved. So just think about that from a perspective of, do I want to be likable, or do I want to be able to get it done, right? And then think about your leadership too. What do they value and what do they respect when it comes from that? So they're looking for people who won't shake, who won't, disrupt, or looking to be the status quo, and that's who's getting advanced. then you got to look at your culture, because not all cultures are going to be this way. Hello, it's been a minute. I'm glad I don't see your name, LinkedIn user, for some reason, but put your name in there so I can see your name in the chat box as well. So that way I can see, and I'll just put that on stage so I can see it too. All right. So that is number one. Let's move on to number two, which is likability is a moving target. That's a loaded. Is that loaded? That's loaded to me. Let's talk about that. So when you think about standard things when you're in a room, like remember last week or 2 weeks ago, we talked about reading the room, right? So thinking about, depending on who's in the room, think about who's influencing who. So you can meet expectations and still be seen as too much or not enough. Isn't that weird? And that's the truth. So if you're chasing approval, it keeps you adjusting because adjusting what you're trying to do to advance, instead of meeting your objectives and outcomes and showing up and being who you are from the core and building authentic relationships based on that. So likability should not come from just your personality. Likability should not come from just your performance. Likability should come, and this is just me talking, okay? Likability should come from a core of who you are, how you're showing up, the quality and level of the work you're doing, the relationships, the quality and the level of relationships that you have, the politics of respectability that's a part of that. So think about likability from a holistic standpoint, and not just someone who's being nice and polite and respectful, but are you someone who specifically is showing up with authority? Are you, what you're saying, do you have the power and influence to push back and people listen? And did you have the influence to shift and create change for better outcomes for the business objectives? So again, thinking about likability, and when we talk about it being a moving target, I'm going to put that back up there. We talk about likability being a moving target. Is it really a moving target? It can be if you're not in the right place. So you do have to read the room and understand, what type of leadership you have. What do they value? What type of leaders do they value? What type of leaders do they promote? Because you could be in the wrong place. If you're looking for approval through what you're doing, and you have to understand how people get promoted where you work. So it's not just standard in every organization. You have to pay attention to who gets promoted, who advances along in their careers. How is it done in your specific organization? Because it's not going to be the same everywhere you go. And so thinking about that. So yes, number two is likability is a moving target, and you have to know about who is in the room. How is likability valued? What does likability mean in your organization? What does that mean? Is it likability because you get the work done? Is it likability because you meet all your KPIs? Is it likability because you make the company money? Is it likability because you genuinely are a nice person who shows empathy and kindness and respect to all individuals within the organization? You have to figure out what likability really is, and how leaders in your organization, what that means to them, if that makes sense. So we're talking about today, for those of you who are just coming on, we're talking about being liked is not a career strategy. Okay. And we're talking about genuinely just wanting to be nice and be liked in that way. Likability can be a career strategy, but the only way it can be a career strategy is for you to understand how likability works in your organization. All right. So number three is respect is built through clarity and consistency, right? And then we're talking about likability. We're not talking about respect overall. We're talking about likability, talking about respect through clarity and consistency. What this means is that respect can come from clear boundaries. It can come from having decisive communication and follow through. It can be earned through your reliability, the results that you achieve, not the emotional labor that can tax you or over explaining. And I have a philosophy is that if you're explaining yourself or you're over explaining yourself, then you've already lost. So there's no power moves in you having to explain. There's no power moves in that at all. If you're having to explain, you have already lost. So think about that in context when I share that. And so thinking about respect is built through clarity and consistency. And some of you say, well, I have clarity, and I do have, but clarity is about how they see you and the likability of that. right? Because some people can be very nice people, but do not communicate well. So their likability is on a scale of 1 to 5, their likability level may be a 2. Just because they're nice doesn't mean that they're going to like them, because they may look at them and say, well, their communication is not very good, so I'm not too crazy about them. So you have to think about what is valued in your organization when it comes to likability. So hello, everybody. I'm seeing so many. Keisha from North Carolina, Joanne from Texas, Dr. Michelle, good afternoon. All right, you all. I don't know. It kicked me out. I hate that. Now I can't see none of my comments. I just don't like that at all. All right. But anyway, I'm back. For those of you who just saw that kick me out for just a few seconds, but I am here. So Helena, hello from Columbus, Ohio. Love it, love it, love it. And just before I got kicked out, now I'm back in. We're talking about being liked is not a career strategy. And we're on number 3, which is respect is built through clarity and consistency. All right. Number 4 is authority requires you to take up space. Now, one of the things that I love about authority, and we talk about a lot about this in our career, in our, a career authority program in reference to when it comes to career power and authority, and thinking specifically around what that looks like when you actually showing up and having authority in what you do. This is one of my favorite things to talk about, because when we think about the specifics of showing up with authority, some people get scared and they get nervous when we talk about that. But here it is. Authority shows up when you speak up first, you set direction, and you challenge assumptions. Don't be afraid to do that. Okay. If you're waiting to be invited into leadership roles, this delays your visibility and your impact. And what I love about authority, and is one of my favorite things, is that you shouldn't be waiting for permission to make decisions, right? What you should be doing is that if you see there's a problem that needs to be solved, you need to be able to make someone aware of the problem. But then when you do, make sure you're offering a solution, and you're offering a solution in a way that is, say, here's what we can do, right? If you're someone who has a collaborative work style, you can say, this is what we can do. This is all the individuals are going to be involved in resolving this issue, but this is what I am proposing that we do to resolve this. Or if you don't need that, and it's something that you individually need to take care of, then you can acknowledge the problem, but then making sure you're offering that solution. So we shouldn't have to ask for permission to show up with authority in who we are and what we're doing, right? Because a lot of times when in leadership, it may be unspoken, where they want you to come and with offering solutions to a problem and not waiting for permission to do that. That's on you. So you have to be confident enough to know how to show up with authority, and making sure that you're taking up space to be recognized in that way. Because if you're waiting on leadership to tell you what to do and how to do it, you're going to lose credibility and respect, and you're probably not going to be looked at for advancement if you're someone who's looking to others all the time for some sort of direction and guidance. And here is a tip for you. If you do need guidance and direction, try to either go to a mentor, a sponsor, or an advisor that supports your work, and talk to them about it. And maybe not necessarily go to your leader with it, especially if you know that you're going to lose credibility. Or if you're going to go to them, say, hey, this is what I'm proposing to do. What's your thoughts around this? And do it that way. So you have to be very strategic around how you do that, because you don't want to lose your respect or credibility, especially when you're trying to use authority to increase your visibility and your impact in what you're doing. So just think about it from that perspective when you can. Because at the end of the day, when we're talking about authority, you first have to become comfortable with the fact that you do have power to have that. You don't need to wait for permission from your leader to say you have the power to exert authority. Come on. A leader doesn't wait for permission, right? Especially when you know that you have specific outcomes that are tied to your role that you're trying to achieve. You better be assertive, and you better use some authority to get it done, and be creative with that if you need to. All right, number 5 is visibility is about ownership, not attention. So if you're running around here, if you want to pick me type of individuals, this is not going to work for you, okay? Because people can see right through that. Visibility is about ownership, and an authority allows you to have that visibility because you're making decisions and you're seeing an impact from those, okay? Visibility is about claiming your work, to be honest. It's also about your expertise. It's also about your point of view. And when you have authority, it does get people to pay attention to what you're saying, which does increase your visibility for people who can listen to what you're saying and support that. So it means attaching your name to certain outcomes and ideas without apologizing for it, right? With, if you want to provide details, if someone says, well, how'd you come up with that idea? As long as they're saying it with respect, of course, share with them what they, how you came up with it. But if they're being condescending, like, how did you come up with that idea? Then you need to have a conversation with them with mutual respect and understanding to go ahead and let them know you got the right one. We're going to have this conversation because, yeah, I am just as capable as anybody else to come up with ideas to solve a problem, meet the outcome, or whatever the case may be. So again, visibility is about ownership, not attention. One of my favorite things to talk about because, I don't think we think about how much visibility can make an impact on how we show up, or the authority, all the little small things that comes along with that is, I don't think is what we don't consider. All right. So number 6, discomfort is often a sign of growth. Okay. Discomfort is often a sign of growth. I'm going to put this back on my banner here. All right. Discomfort is often a sign of growth. When you stop prioritizing wanting to be liked, things can become a little bit easier for you. Stop prioritizing likability. And sometimes resistance may show up if you're someone who naturally wants to be liked. So a lot of times the discomfort you're feeling from that is a signal that power is being recognized. And what I mean by that is that people are starting to, when they listen to you, they're actually doing what you're asking them to say, or they're agreeing with your suggestion and then asking for additional steps to support it. So just think about being uncomfortable in that space and what it really can do to help you with that. So this whole goal for today's, Career Tip Tuesday is to help you to understand likability in a different way and not think about it as someone who's being nice and helpful and polite, but thinking about likability in the sense of the work you're doing, the quality of work, how it's bringing visibility, how it's bringing credibility to you, how it's helping you to have access to get other things done, and just thinking about it from a whole nother perspective when we're talking about the whole piece of understanding what likability really is. Hello, Jennifer from Birmingham. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So I think it's important to understand what that means. Discomfort is often a sign of growth. And again, if you feel uncomfortable with like, oh, I don't really want to be assertive, or I really don't, me just suggesting an idea, that is authority. You have to have some authority. Show up with solutions to problems. And I think that is completely okay for you to do that, because again, this is about you owning your career, owning your reputation. What do you want to be known for? So when you're thinking about why likability is not a career strategy, but it definitely is something you need to be trying to utilize and manage within your career, what do you want to be known for? Oh, yeah, Velvet, she's a nice person. But do you want to be known to be a nice person, or do you want to be known as somebody who gets the shit done? I'm just saying. I mean, when we think about it from that perspective, so when we're thinking about, and let's go back for those of you who are just now just now coming in, we're talking about being liked is not a career strategy. And so my whole goal here is to get you thinking about likability in a whole different way. That way you can start to look at how you're showing up differently when it comes to likability in the workplace overall. So when we're talking about I'm gonna go back and recap this because we still got about 6 minutes left. Questions before I don't want to give the final power move yet until you all are actually until you ask me some questions. I really want to know what your thoughts are around this. Who is concerned about likability at work? Anybody? Is anybody concerned with likability at work? Some of you like, girl, I don't care if they like me or not. We're not talking about that specifically, though. What we're talking about is not about you giving a hoot if they don't like you, but how are you using your career experience, skills, your communication style, how you show up, your presence, all these things in terms of likability. It's almost kind of like your personal brand in a way. And when I say it's not a career strategy, it's not a whole career strategy by itself. It's just one component of a bigger, comprised of a bigger strategic plan you should be having. So it's kind of like in it, but not really the strategy by itself. And that's really what that means. All right, Sandra B says, I am. Okay, Dr. Nee says no. So again, this is not about thinking about likability from the fact of, do they really like me like that? This is about thinking about likability from a credibility standpoint. That's really what it is. I have a LinkedIn user. I will say when white women like you at work, they can speak about you in rooms that you're not in. This is true for the LinkedIn user who said that, but we just don't want white women in the rooms saying that. We want individuals in those rooms who have the power and influence to have them pay attention to you. And sometimes that may be a white woman, might be a white man, might be a black man, might be another black woman, who knows? But again, whoever that is, we want that individual to have the power and influence to be in that room. And when they speak and share that, people are paying attention. So I love that you said that, because it absolutely is true. But we want to expand on that and make sure that it's more than just that. Dr. Need says character is important and can be helpful for promotion. Absolutely. You have to have character, but this is about understanding likability in the right way. Again, going back to what I was saying around thinking around, what is your leadership? What do they value when it comes to likability? Because they may say you're nice, but if you're not meeting deadlines, if you're not, helping them make money or meeting the bottom line, or whatever that case may be, your likability value may be, yeah, she's nice, but you see what I'm saying? We're talking about likability from a perspective of how is this helping you to advance, right? And this goes far beyond being nice and being respectful and all the things. This is talking about likability in a way of, do they like your work? Do they like your leadership style? Do they like your authority, how you're showing up? Are you visible, right? And Dr. Nee says respect. Absolutely. But you can still be respected, but not impactful. Okay, let's take a level deeper than that. Sandra says sometimes it's hard being heard if you're dealing with someone who doesn't want you to excel. Well, absolutely, it is hard, right? If you're dealing with someone who is pushing against the grain to see you not really, they're not valuing what you bring to the table. And then sometimes we need to have that clear conversation with this individual about your career aspirations, how far you want to go in the organization, and then see if they're willing to support you. Because sometimes you have to have these conversations, not because you necessarily want to see them help you, but to even know where they stand. Because if you see that this person is someone that doesn't support your career development and growth, then how are you going to navigate around them to still be able to progress and advance within the organization? So being very transparent and clear about what it is you want and what your career track is and what you're looking to accomplish in the organization is important for you to express that with your leader or with an advisor or sponsor or whomever you are working with. You have to be able to be clear about that. And if you have someone who absolutely is not listening, then maybe you need to have that hard conversation with them and say, I'd like to have a conversation with you about, some of the communication challenges I'm experiencing with you. Can we talk about this with mutual respect and understanding? And then be able to lay it out with the facts about what you're experiencing, and then ask for a specific outcome. And so I think it's important to understand what that looks like, because you have to empower yourself, and communication is a great way to do that, but you have to do it in a way that, it's important for you and the individual that you're talking to. All right. So another one says, nowadays, white women dominate leadership positions. Yes, they do. We absolutely want to be able to cultivate those relationships with those women. But again, every individual organization is different. So you got to see, you can still have a white woman who's a leader, but doesn't necessarily mean she's the most influential. So you have to be paying attention to that, because just because you're in the title doesn't mean you're really there and have the right goods in the role. Janet says, I would rather be respected than liked, but being liked can help with being respected. I know, right? I like that, Janet. I do. You just have to think about what that really means. Respected and then liked, right? So some people say it's hand in hand, but you got to look at the, what does especially if you're looking to advance, again, it all goes back to what is your leadership value? Because you may be putting your efforts in the wrong thing and they don't value that. Again, they could be like, oh, she's nice, she's funny, we like her, but you know what I'm saying? Think about what it is they value. What does like mean to them? Do they like that you're making the company millions of dollars? Do they like that your leadership style produces results with your team? You get what I'm saying? So again, because you can have people who may not be well liked when it comes to personality, but they're respected and people respect them and they get it done. That's a boundary piece that we were talking about. So again, thinking about that. But yeah, definitely want to be respected and liked. For sure. Let's see, LinkedIn user, Sherry, this is the call. Nicole, I think there's a balance. You can be known for getting things done whole, still maintaining a good character, civility, respectfulness, because your relationship with others is likely the key to advancement. Yeah, the relationship building piece is critical, right? What this is really about today is not looking at likability as your entire strategy, which means you should not be looking at your career strategy as that you just want to be liked. It's a component of various things that come along with that. So that's why we said, that the whole, today's the whole thing is being liked is not a career strategy by itself. So don't use it as a way to try to get ahead. That's really what this is about. It does take respect and authority and visibility. Those are the things that we talked about in terms of those 6 tips. So you're right about that, Nicole. But again, you definitely need to still understand the type of organization that you work for and what type of leaders are being promoted. You have to pay attention to that. So it says a lot about what they value when you look at the type of leaders that are being promoted. So you have to pay attention to that. But no, I love that. Thank you for the dialogue. I swear I'm going to have to kick StreamYard's butt if they keep kicking me out. we're going to have to do something about that, because they are like driving me nuts with this here. All right, really quickly. I want to go ahead and just recap the last 6 before we wrap up and give you my power moves tip. First one is approval culture rewards comfort and advancement. Likability is a moving target. Respect is built through clarity and consistency. Authority requires you to take up space. Visibility is about ownership, not attention. And discomfort is often a sign of growth. And here's your power move tip for today. Being liked is not a career strategy. For many Black women, approval is framed as safety. We're taught to be agreeable, fixable, and grateful. This causes often stalls our growth and can mute it as well. So just think about that, right? Just think about thinking about likability in a way that's moving you forward and not necessarily based on just personality, but another level component of things. So I hope this was some helpful career tips that we share for today. Now, I'm going to give you back the rest of your time for the rest of your day. Thank you for joining us for Career Tip Tuesday. And we will see you all in 2 weeks. Bye, everybody.